So legal research, this is your week. Heck, I don't remember what week it is. Week 7 guide. So week 7 and 8, we move to a more focused look at uh, case law. Give me a second. It's been a really long week and a long day. um, it seems like work continued all through the weekend this weekend. Lots of phone calls and issues I had to deal with, and things I had to do in my role as the faculty president. So I'm a little discombobulated, but we are going to week 7 and 8. And that's hard to believe too, that we're that far through the semester. So we'll be dealing with case law. And at this point, heading towards the midpoint of the semester, you should be able to summarize the elements of judicial opinions. You should be able to describe the publication of cases, the elements of a typical court case. You should be able to know the differences in the types of opinions written by judges, majority, concurring, dissenting. Sound familiar? And you should be able to locate cases using different research sources and organized methods. And identify the elements of analyzing and briefing cases. Now, if you don't, then this is your last opportunity. Remember, we talked about at some point, and then to be this week when we hit week 8, you should feel much different than you did in week 1 and be at a point where now we can move, because really 4 weeks after week 8, we are done with the content of this course and doing our bridge work to get to research 2. So the elements of a case. The case name, the docket number, and the deciding court. Think about it, picture a case in your mind. The case name, people versus of the state of Illinois versus whatever, or 2 last names of people if it's a civil case. The docket number of the deciding court, the date of the decision, the case summary or synopsis, head notes if it comes from Lexis or Westlaw. And remember, head notes are publisher provided, not the court provided, so we never cite to head notes. The names of the legal counsel, which sometimes you search for cases that were handled by a lawyer because you want to know how that lawyer has done in the past or what cases that lawyer has argued in the past. So you might have, we don't always search for just topics and issues. Sometimes we do a search like that. So it's important to know the names of the lawyers who handled that case would be included. And then you have the opinion and the decision. Now, sometimes the opinion and the decision is stated early, and then they go through a long dissertation of why they made that decision. But most of the times you have a recitation of the facts and the issues in the underlying court and how it got there and all that history, and then their analysis, and then they say we reverse or we affirm or whatever they did. But you've seen that enough times now. You know how to find parallel citations. In Shepard's, since we use Lexis, Keysight if you happen to use Westlaw in practice, same thing. In the slides that accompany this chapter in these 2 weeks, there are some symbols or abbreviations provided to you, and some of those abbreviations you should probably start using as you're making your notes. We talked about the fact that, if I'm doing research, I'm left-handed, I would have a pad over here and I would be looking at the computer screen and writing things down. It's simpler to use those abbreviations. So the pi sign for plaintiff, delta sign for defendant, the little section thing, capital K for contract. There's all sorts of abbreviations on there. Keep that slide. Start adopting those abbreviations, not only for your own use, but because you're going to have to see those and try to decipher those when the lawyer you go to work for uses those abbreviations. You will see them. Now, we talked about the case reading strategies in the past. And so just to review that, during your first reading, remember I told you I read a case at least 2 times, usually 3 times before I start to actually use that case and start to break it down. First time I think, okay, well, this might be applicable. The second time I confirm it's applicable. The third time I go in and I'm zeroing in on the parts of that case that are most relevant and helpful to me. During your first reading, focus on who the parties are and what relief they want from the court. Ask, what is the plaintiff's issue? What's the defendant's issue? Figure out what happened at the court below, and then determine what this reviewing court decision is. Know the court's decision in advance. It'll help you make sense of the case when you read it more thoroughly later. Look for clues. Watch for language in the court's opinion, such as, it is critical to note that. That means they're telling you something important, right? Although we have previously held that, that means they're probably going to reverse. They previously held that. I read that or hear that and I think, okay, they're going to go somewhere different. They're going to change directions. And other signals like that, you've seen enough of those now, but you're really going to become second nature. You're going to see those. Those are signals. And what follows those expressions is always very important. So grab your pencil or your pen and make some notes. Now, when you're summarizing cases, over time, you're going to get better, but there's certain things that you should start doing now, certain things you should adopt and start doing now. Like 1, use complete sentences. 2, we've talked about quoting. Paraphrase. Don't overquote from the opinion. The only time you'll see me ever in something that I would be writing in a legal way, or especially if I'm using it as a persuasive thing to a court, that I would ever quote would be when it was that quote, that opinion from the court, those words, those sentences that I can't paraphrase any better than the court. And I really want to use it to say, you must do this because this court said so. It's that important point. Don't include unnecessary distracting citations. Yes, you want to, ideally, you have 2 or 3 citations that are cases that support your position. You don't need 10, okay? And remember your jurisdictions and your hierarchy, and you go for the ones that are most relevant in hierarchy and fresh bread. Always fresh bread. The fresher the bread, the better. Some things that you need to provide to me when you're summarizing a case: the name of the case, the citation, to include always jurisdiction, and then remember the date. We just went over that, I believe, last week. The procedural, or no, not last week. So this is week 7. So that was week 5 in class. The procedural history. How did the reporting court get the case? How did it get to that level of the court? Was it an appeal by the plaintiff, by the defendant, by which party, and from what court did it come, and why? A summary of the relevant facts. A lot of times students want to tell me the case name and the issue in the case, and then what the court decided. That's all well and good. But if you had my evidence or administration of justice class, you know that I'm always harping, hey, tell me the facts. The facts explain how the court reached its issue. The court uses those facts to explain, in its opinion, how it reached those issues. Summarize the facts relevant to the issues you're talking about. Then give me the issues. And then, of course, I always want the finding. What did the court decide? And then the reasoning. Why? Why did they decide what they decided? Okay? You know this by now, but it's good for a review. Use this guide and use these slides and use the resources on these slides to improve your research, to improve your analysis of a case, and to improve your summary of that case. And then finally, own it. We talked about this. Own the case. Know and be able to recite the case. Okay? You don't have to do it verbatim. I'm not asking, I don't want it verbatim when you write your summary. It can be in your own words, but know it. Know who the parties are. Know the names. Know the year it came from what court. Know what court it came from prior to that. It came from the Circuit Court of Peoria County to the 3rd District Appellate Court before it went to the Illinois Supreme Court. Know that. Know the facts. All the facts. Know the issues. And know the reasoning and the decision of the case. Own the case. Own it. Be able to verbalize it. If you can verbalize it, you can write it. If you can write it, you should be able to verbalize it. But the practical matter of how this is going to work, if you are able to do research and you're valued at doing the research for a lawyer in the law office, is going to be, it's not just about turning in some document. It's going to be about coming into their office, sitting across from their desk, telling them, verbalizing, telling them about the case. Sometimes defending the case or arguing with them because you think this case applies to your issues or your client's issues, and they may not. Defending your research. And a good lawyer will value that you do that. It's what a good lawyer wants you to do. That's why they're paying you. If I can't trust you to go and do this type of work and to do it to that level, to own it, then what do I need you for? If I have to go out and do it myself or do it over, what do I need you for? So keep that in mind. This is your guide for both weeks 7 and 8 as we cover cases. Stay well. If you have any questions, you know where to get me on Tuesday or Monday nights, and then you know where to find me any other time, right here, Higgins Hall, the far western campus of Illinois Central College. I'll see you in class.